and welcome to Theoretically Practical. My name's Brent. I'll be your host for the evening, and today we're back to work on the John Deere skid steer. It's not going to be too present in this video, I think, depending on how far I get, but few people have asked a few questions about the drive system, how I'm going to get the hydraulics to work, how I'm going to get the power to the two hydrostatic pumps in the machine. And so I'd like to answer those questions and actually kind of finish mounting them to the motor so that the motor is at least prepped for the next stage. Now, I did a lot of work on this behind the scenes, thinking about it, figuring it out, trying to make it work. That's not why we haven't been having videos. It's just been cold. You can see my breath, but this is warm. I'm only wearing 2 coats and not 3 or 4. So we should be getting more and more videos as it warms up, back to our regular schedule of 1 a week. So. But let's look at what we've got, and I'll tell you guys what I bought that was wrong and what I ended up buying that was correct, and what sort of the difference is. Okay, we're going to talk about how the new hydraulic setup is going to differ from the old one. So, and I got the old motor still. Again, if anyone needs an Onan 20 horsepower motor for parts or a boat anchor, you know, it's right here. So basically, weirdly enough, instead of driving everything off one end to the other end of the motor, they drove it off of both ends. And this would have been in the skid steer. So this is the back of the skid steer here. And I have this oriented the same way so you kind of look at how it is. This is the original motor mount plate, and this is the original motor. So you've got this little pulley and this little belt here that would have driven this pump. I don't know if this pump is any good, and I'm not going to try because it was full of water and frozen solid when I got the thing. But I know it's a 7.5 gallon per minute pump, and we'll talk about how we're going to select the new pump in a little bit. Then the other 2 belts are these belts that drove the hydrostatic system. They were on the front of the engine. The flywheel is off of this engine right now, and I don't have the original pulley for that. And it's irrelevant because instead of looking at the specifications of the original pulley and trying to match things and everything like that, I'm using it, probably going to spin at a different RPM with this. I've got more horsepower, more torque, so it's not apples to apples. But I know from looking at the documentation that the original hydrostatic pumps want to spin it around 3,000 RPM max. Now, I'd like to spin this motor less than 3,000 RPM, even though that's its rated maximum running speed. It's always better if you can be a little bit lower. And again, with this, I've got more horsepower and torque than I need, so I don't have to run it balls out to get 100% out of it. So we'll talk about that in a minute, though. I shouldn't have talked about that yet. We're going to talk about the hydraulics. We're going to back it up a couple steps. So, the hydraulics on this one were powered off of this pulley right here. They ran this pump here. This pump would have been right at the back of it. This filter, you don't need to worry about that. This is, if you look at these 2 lines here and here, this is the remote oil filter for that engine. So that whole plate can come off and go away. We'll probably pull that off in a minute and scrape this off so it's a little bit cleaner and nicer, because this is going to still mount the new motor as long as I can get away with it. So you got this pump here, and the problem really is that there's not a great place to mount a pulley to this side of the engine. I mean, I could figure something out with this, whatever. I'm not going to. So, because reading the documentation, which I would have been better off not reading and making a pulley, but no, I'm stubborn and we're doing it this way. There's this lovely little cover here. This cover is the 3rd PTO for it. This actually has technically 4 PTOs. There's a way to, I don't know where, I think you can put something on the other side of this as well, or maybe this one doesn't have the 4th PTO. I think there was supposed to be another boss you could bolt another PTO on for certain models. So you got this. So you've got this gear. It's part of the timing system in there, and then this little cover here. So I'll show you what I bought that was wrong. I could not find the part for this easily. I did eventually find it, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But what I did find on eBay said a Lombardini PTO with a hydraulic pump, with a Lamborghini hydraulic pump, no less. It is the same Lamborghini, or at least it came from the same original owner of the manufacturer of Lamborghini. He made tractors before cars. It's kind of funny, look it up. Anyway, so I saw this. I said, from the pictures, I could see that it had a 3-bolt pattern to mount it. That's not the same plane as this. I saw this at a 3-bolt pattern. I'm like, well, I mean, come on, same manufacturer. How different can it be? So I bought it. And I got it home, and I was like, and I saw it this size here, and I saw that hole there. I thought, oh, that looks good. And then I went, so this is junk. Unless you know what this is and need it. That was like $175, including shipping for the pump and the motor and everything. So, color me disappointed. But it's my own damn fault. It was not the eBay seller's fault. I just took a guess and took a gamble and hoped it would work out. Okay, so this pump, at least we should get some use out of. I don't know how good it is, but it feels better than the other pump. This is, as far as I know, is a 5 cc's per revolution pump, which is about 1/3 of what the size I think I need. But that's okay, because it just means everything will move slower. I'll be able to use it for test purposes and get the same style pump with the same sort of mount and the same sort of taper, and be able to swap it out real easily once I figured out the final max RPM this is going to run at. So, round 2, 3, 4, whatever. I found one picture of this online at a French website called TechniDiscount, and it said it was out of stock, but I emailed them about it. They said, actually, we have some in stock. We'll put it in stock on the webpage for you to order it. I was thrilled. This little heavy-duty cutie here was about $250, though, which kind of sucks, but you know what? It is what it is, and this is how I really want to do it. So it's a little bit funky though, because there's this little cover on the inside here. And I always assumed that this mounting flange and this boss were what held the whole unit. But this is the cover that came off, and you can see the hole right through here. You can see that there's, well, maybe you can see it. Yeah, there's an oil passage here for oil to come in, and there's a few slots in it for oil to come out. So this is actually just a plain bearing, which just means that it's, you know, metal on metal. And the oil hole lines up with that. This is not a true symmetrical 3-way pattern, specifically so when you put it in, the 2 holes line up. And in the case of this, once I had it, I figured out that it fits right in there. So awesome. And that also came with this and this, which are just the couplers. So this just goes here, and it gives it some slide like that. And then this coupler goes in here. And it's just so that if things aren't perfectly aligned, they can weeble wobble around a little bit. So looking at the hydraulic pump, if I take off this part here and the adapter, which I'll just do that right now with one hand. I hate watching people do stuff one-handed on YouTube. Oh, no, it's stuck. Okay, we'll get a puller, we'll get that off. No big deal. That's the same taper, so that will mount up. And if you've worked with hydraulic pumps before in the US, this may look a little weird, but this is apparently called like a 4-bolt Euro style pump. I don't know. You can get them online. Like the real pump for this is going to cost like $120, $130, so not too terrible. The reason why I'm going through all the effort through this, because then the pump is going to mount to this plate, which is going to mount like that. So the pump will be mounted on something like that, and we'll be able to put the gazina at the top and the gazouta at the bottom, and it'll just make for a really clean installation, and you won't have like another 3 belts to make work and all that other junk. So what we're gonna do now is I'll try to set you guys up, and I wanna properly install this. It's pretty straightforward. I have the bolts for it, but because you have to bolt this in from the back. Oh, you don't need to take it apart. Okay, yeah, all right, well, yeah, we'll put this together and put some Loctite on it, slide it all together, and then we'll mount up the pump as well. Hopefully, if I can find the right fasteners, which I probably can't. All right, so I did manage to get this little guy in here. What I did is put put the screwdriver through the hole and through the bolt hole I wanted to line up for and pushed it in. You don't have to worry about the alignment again because these are not symmetrical holes. If you look at it, from this point of view, right? You can see the gasket fits, the gasket doesn't fit. So you can't, as long as you get all three fasteners in, you can't get the orientations wrong. It's just very important that the oil actually makes it into this bearing or else it dies. So we got that all sorted. We got the new cover on. This is the original cover. I assume that it just sticks in there to protect that bearing mounting surface. I'm not necessarily sure why it's so much longer than this one. So, but it just goes on like that and then falls off again because I don't have too many hands. And these are the original fasteners that were holding the plate on. They actually had nuts inside of here, which was, well, a pain in the nuts to get off. So we'll take a look at that in a minute here. I'll get that in. All right, so the back of that's on and tightened down. One thing you should do before you try to do anything else is take this, you hear that this wiggles freely? That's a good sign, and then turn it by hand a little bit. That's a good sign as well. The reason why I'm doing that is because these thread into the back of that mount, and if they were too long, they would press into the back of that gear. And whatever the consequences of turning the starter like that would be, you don't want them. So now we got to get the rest of this junk mounted up. So it is a little funky though, because looking at this, these adapters don't fit through here. So I believe I'm going to have to put this onto the, yeah. So for whatever reason on the first round, they made that small enough to fit through, but this adapter, which is going to go here, is not. So you're actually going to have to bolt this to this, take that off, swap it for this, and then put it all together as a unit. I probably don't have fasteners for that, but I can probably get some for tomorrow. So I'm gonna go see what I got in my box of stuff. Well, I forgot I had a lovely stash of Land Rover bolts. So I did find 2 bolts that will work to hold this on out of 4. I mean, that's halfway there. I'm going to try to pull it off using what is actually, this is something, I found this at a yard sale for $5, and it was so well made I had to buy it because I didn't know what it was. And what it turns out to be is it's for removing stuck battery terminals is what I eventually figured out. So, but what I like about it is it's got a wedge, so you can put it under whatever you're trying to pry off, and it wedges the fingers in place so they can't come off. Wow. I feel like I should have taken this off at least once or twice to make sure that I could do it before I decided to do it on video. There we go. Wow. Well, that's a little tight. We are gonna give it a little hit with the old tiny tapper. It doesn't help that I'm trying to do it one-handed. Let me come back to this off. I think this is going to work fine, though. Okay, this turned out to be more of a project than I expected. This, not strong enough. Only good for battery terminals. This, you can't reach what you need. The bearing splitter should do the task, I say. Set that right there. Whoa! That wasn't meant to be quite that exciting, but bearing splitter. That did the task. they're a handy tool to have. They don't just work on bearings. Yeah, cool. Oh, almost had me. All right. Gonna bolt this bad boy on there first. So I'll do that in a minute. I gotta rip these stupid little plastic bungs out. The only thing I was really disappointed about with this whole thing is when I got this from the company, all the parts were in a bag, and this aluminum part just got chewed up in transit. Again, it's nothing functional, so I don't really care, but it's just I don't know, I just don't like it. I don't like it, and I don't have to. All right, whoever decided to use this kind of coupler in this application was an asshole. And I'll show you why, unless... Oh, I bet that presses out. No. Because the thing is that one of the bolts that holds this on is here. If I put this on here, I can't put that bolt in there. But if I put this on here, I can't put this on here. But it does look like this center puck is removable, but it just seems wild to do that. In this application, I don't know, some crazy Italian person. And you know what? If you're gonna give me crap for crapping on Italians about their mechanical design, well, then you haven't worked with a lot of Italian equipment, okay? Whimsical is not typically what one would want in their mechanical design. That being said, this is a fine diesel engine, a fine piece of equipment, and there are many fine Italian machines. But seriously, what the... I mean, come on. Like, this should be easy. It should have taken me 30 seconds. And I'm into an hour now trying to figure this stupid thing out. So I'm going to push out this center. Hopefully this comes out. Then I can put that on. Then I can put that on. Then I can put everything together. And then it'll all leak from all the excess seams. All right, I take it back a little bit. This is an O-ring on the inside and the outside. So you put this on here. I'm assuming that direction, but who knows. Then I can bolt that on there. Then I have a hole big enough to fit this in through. But why have two O-ring seals instead of one? I just can't. I can't answer those questions. I can't answer them at all. So anyways, we're almost done messing around with this. You probably won't see a lot of this footage at all because it's terrible, just like me. Okay. Well, there it is. That's how the hydraulic motor is going to mount. I might end up getting different adapters for the in and the out. I think the out's actually kind of the right way. Yeah, so, but that's all right. That's all doable at this point because whatever I get is going to have this 4-bolt pattern or 3-bolt pattern with an O-ring seal on the top and the bottom. So that'll be perfect. So now I got a hydraulic pump mounted. So cool. Excellent. All right, let's go around to the front. Take a look at what we got going on there. So if you watched the first video, this had an excessive amount of flywheel. And you notice now the flywheel doesn't stick out that far. This is the piece of material that I removed from the flywheel. So we have a giant bandsaw at work, and we cut that right off. And then I faced that and everything, so it's nice. I'll say this is probably... I don't know, 50, 60 pounds. It's a big frickin' donut of steel. I did run it like this with the thing cut off. It revs much better and everything's working a lot better on it. So I am thrilled about that. So how, though, are we going to drive from the front of this to belts real close to this? And the answer is a small block Chevy nose pulley. Now, I've already bored this out. The center of this was much smaller. I think this is a water pump pulley or the crank pulley. I'm not sure which. I should have put a bigger chamfer on this edge, but I can do that by hand. So I turned that to fit on the center boss there. And there it goes. If I can fit it on. And then what I'll do is these holes here, I'm going to use a transfer punch and center them so they're not on top of any of these existing holes and just bolt it right on. I had all these ideas of like a shaft that came out with a pulley and all this other junk that would have provided a ton of projection and wobble while we were running. This is the solution. I got this one in particular because it stuck out far enough, and because it was aluminum, it's actually almost 1/4 of an inch thick there, so I could bore it out pretty well. I won't zoom in on that because I did a crap job machining it, but it fits. So it's going to go on like that. And basically, it sticks out plenty far to clear everything. The exhaust is just on like this for running, not for real. I'm going to have to make a whole new, maybe even a whole manifold from scratch. I'm not sure. But that doesn't matter. Nothing else sticks out farther. The only other thing that might fetch up on anything is the fuel filter. And that just mounts on to one of the motor mounts. And it could easily mount to that one instead. There's no reason this has to go anywhere in particular. So there's only one more problem, because I'm an idiot and I forgot that belts have sizes. Take a look at this and we'll see these belts, they don't fit in this groove. I'm of a mind, at least for now, to just ignore this until I get it running, but then I'll never pull it apart again. What I'll probably do is take one of these belts to work, set this up in the lathe again. I did tram when I bored this out, I used the groove as my reference, and I got that to spin within a 1/1000th of an inch, which is like, I don't know, it's not very much of a millimeter. All right, so now we're going to look at the whole sort of package. We're kind of at the point now where we're about ready to put it in. We're not going to do that this week. This is about where we're going to end off this week. But so you can see we've got the hydraulic pump mounted properly so it's driven off the motor. I think this one I'm going to rotate around maybe, you know, this style of thing, even though it only has 3 bolts on it, there's actually 4 tapped holes and you can clock it in any position. So I have to figure out how to clock that and that one. And I would also say that it's likely that this is the inlet and that is the outlet, which is backwards of what I ideally wanted. Not that that's a problem, but something to be aware of anyways. The outlet's always going to be smaller than the inlet in anything like this. So, but that's fine. It's just a matter of hose routing and how many adapters I need. So that'll be all right, but that's gonna be nice and clean when it's in the machine, and there won't be a belt. You know, that connection there is permanent. It doesn't really wear out or anything. So that should be fine. Come around to the front, we got our pulley mounted to the flywheel. The flywheel is cut down so that it's not too massive. This is gonna basically be what aligns the whole motor. So the other 2 pulleys are gonna be up here and over here. And we're just going to try to sort of center this between them this way as much as the engine allows. I'm really more concerned about fitting the engine in than the side to side. The up and down also is not particularly relevant. It's really just the in and out that this is going to set, and we're also probably going to use washers to shim it so that we don't want the pulley belt like this, and we don't want it like this or like this or like this. So that's going to set everything from here back. I've got the cutoff plate underneath it right now so you can see that it's the right width to sort of hold the whole motor. You can see that dirty edge under there. So what I'm actually thinking I'm going to do is trim the plate off here that mounts to the bottom of the motor at the front, but not the back, because I'm not sure how far forward this needs to go. I know it doesn't need to go backwards on that plate, but I think it needs to go quite a bit forwards. So we're going to cut off and use this plate, and basically use this plate to slide around on that, which those ribs should be tall enough to help with the clearance issue we had when we test fit it. And if that all works out well, we'll just weld this to the base and be golden. If it doesn't work, then we might put box tubing under here, but we'll just have to try to kind of fit it in and see what's going on. So, and hopefully that should be next week or the week after, depending on when I get the time and the weather to make it happen. And once the engine is in and it's in place and it's sorted, it's just a matter of finishing up, running the lines, filling up the hydraulic system, and cleaning, blowing out some of the lines that have been left uncapped, as much as I can. And then we'll be really close to being able to do like a test run. It won't have the intake set up right. It won't have the exhaust set up right. It won't have any electrical wiring. It won't have a seat, but it'll be enough to let us know that the hydrostatic motors and pumps are good, because those can get very expensive very quickly to repair or fix or rebuild. And with this admittedly too small of a size hydraulic pump, everything should move, albeit very slowly. So that's about it. So thanks for watching. I hope to get out another episode on this pretty quick. I'm actually really pretty excited about this. The big thing was trying to get this adapter, the gear, and this plate. And if you're ever in the same boat as me with a Lombardini 9LD, there's a French website called Techni Discount. They're out of France. That's where I ordered from. They shipped very quickly, and it said it was out of stock, but I emailed them and they said, oh no, we actually have one on the shelf. We'll just raise the stock on our website so you can order it. Don't worry about it. So yeah, that was a better idea than buying a random thing off eBay based on the picture, which didn't work out. But it is what it is. We live, we learn, we move along. So have a great week, and thanks for watching. And if you feel like subscribing, click it, whatever. Later.